Special purpose receiver rifle precision shooting guide. Check it out. So why am I doing an SPR shooting training guide? It's because I'm the best. I'm the best shooter ever. No, not at all. It's because it's something that interests me and it seems to be growing in popularity, which is really, really good. I think that's awesome. These rifles, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I think there's a lot of theories that are not tested as far as for individuals. And I think there is this imaginary big barrier for entry that people perceive that is just not there. A lot of it is you just being lazy and not wanting to train. You know, all jokes aside, but I was guilty of that. Kind of going, well, I don't have the range, I don't have this. And the reality is you do. You just have to put the effort or the time in to do it. What I'm making is here's the stuff that I'm focusing on working so that I can get better, because I don't consider myself an expert when it comes to precision rifle shooting. There's an imaginary wall that everyone perceives when it comes to shooting precision rifle that really isn't there. You can really start training for a lot cheaper than you think. And that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys. I've already found things that I suck at that I need to get better at by doing this, and that's why I want to share it with you, okay? My background, real quick, I graduated sniper school. I spent some time in sniper section in the Army. So I have, let's call it 2 years of experience doing sniper things. Now, it's important to understand that doesn't necessarily mean precision shooting. Just like being in the Army doesn't mean you're a high-level shooter. It's a part of your job. Shooting is a part of your job as a sniper, okay? So I got probably the most familiar with the M110 and in sniper school doing all that stuff. And that's about where my experience cut off. The reason I share that with you is because I am not a complete novice, but I am not a complete expert. And I want to make that really clear, because just because you have a YouTube channel these days, people feel very confident about talking about things that they really haven't gone out and pressure tested over and over and over again at the range to make sure they really understand it. Part 1, needed gear. When we start talking about needed gear, the first thing is obviously going to be our rifle. Now let's talk about what is an SPR, okay? A special purpose receiver, military acronym. You don't know the details of it, you don't need to, it doesn't matter. It's taking a M4, M16, AR-15 if you're a civilian platform, and making it a sniper rifle, for lack of better words. A highly accurized version of that platform. So obviously, you know, the AR-15, the M4 is like Legos. You can flex it to do a lot of different things. And what we're trying to flex this to do is more the long range type stuff, okay? That's what an SPR is. Let's talk about characteristics or things that I think are really important. There's basically 3 of them that I think are pretty crucial to you starting to train, okay? The first one is going to be barrel, okay? Having a match grade barrel. I'm not saying you can't get out and start training without a match grade barrel, but I'm just saying it's not really that expensive, so get a match grade barrel. This one has a Criterion barrel in it. It's a 14.5. I like Criterion barrels. I've found that they've, in my experience, been very accurate with lots of different types of ammunition. The only ammo I found it didn't like, oddly enough, was the 77 grain AAC round, which was an AAC projectile, and it didn't shoot that well. It was like about right around 2 MOA with that. But as far as my normal ammunition, you know, it's hanging around, let's say 1.5 MOA. Second thing, optic. Choosing an optic that makes sense, okay? So you can go more towards the heavy side of magnification, the more snipery side of things. Or you can do like this one has, a little bit on the lower side of magnification to shed a little bit of weight and, you know, be more of the less snipery, if you will. It doesn't really matter what the designations are, the terms you use or anything like that. You just have to understand what your equipment is good at doing. The reason I have this 2-10 is because I originally had this set up in more of a jack of all trades rifle, a recce rifle, a general purpose rifle, whatever you want to call it, with a 1-8 that I ran for a while. Decided I didn't like that, switched to the 2-10, and there's 2 big things about this Viper PST that I am not a fan of. I like everything else about it, but the first thing is the windage turrets. They are not capped, they are not locked, so they're just out there in the wind, flapping around, spinning. So I have a big old witness mark on here to make sure that I keep those lined up and good to go. And then the other thing would be the reticle. It's just a straight up, very similar to the TMR reticle for those of you that have shot the M110. It's basically just a crosshair with mils. And it's not bad, I mean, it works, but I would prefer a Christmas tree style reticle. Like 5 mils of Christmas tree would just be perfect. Pick an optic that makes the most sense for you. There's opinions all over the internet of everybody. Some people that are really have done this a lot and shot a lot, and then other people who pretend to shoot a lot and haven't shot a lot. So just, you know, make a decision. It's a cesspool out there of information. Find something that makes sense for you, slap it on your rifle, and let's just do the important part and start shooting, okay? Last piece of equipment that's gonna be really important is going to be a bipod, okay? Bipod is, just for this type of rifle, I think really important. I have the Magpul one, it's pretty but for me, it works. Again, it's getting me in the range, I'm shooting. I'm sure there's other bipods out there, but I'm not good enough yet at shooting to distance to be able to tell you that the bipod's what's making me miss, all right? A couple other things just additionally that you could or may not have. Backup dot, you might have a backup dot. A flashlight, you might have a flashlight. A more accurized stock, sure. A trigger, you might have a nicer trigger, right? Those are some different things that you can kind of add in there as you see fit, but that is the SPR as a whole. Ammo. This one will be pretty quick, okay? I think my train of thought is how I have it set up is I have 2 types of ammo that I want to collect data on. I have my special purpose round. It's the accurized match grade ammunition. Your 77 or 75 grain, whatever it is, it's designed to reach out to a little bit further distances. I want to gather really good data on that, and we'll cover data collection. And then my 62 grain steel core IMI ammunition, right? That's what I have. That's kind of like the ammo I keep for a rainy day. So I want to know, hey, what does this do with at least a 62 grain 5.56, okay? That one I can treat more like a BDC or I just want to know the ballpark. Oh, 6 mils, cool. That's what's going to get me generally on in that target, because I'm probably going to be running those in 30 round mags anyway, all right? So those are the 2 ammunitions that I would suggest having good data on for your rifle. Obviously, if you have a training round, you want to collect, you know, hey, I shoot a lot of 223, so I want to collect data on a 55 grain 223 because that's what I shoot, you know, at 400 meters and in when I'm shooting alternate positions. Cool, man. You do you. All right. Kit. Okay, so kit is kind of this place where we can spend a ton of money or we can spend what we have budgeted and still get to the range, okay? So the first thing that I think is kind of just a necessity is some sort of ballistic solver, okay? Now what's really cool is you have a cell phone, you can go buy the Applied Ballistics app, which is, it's I think about 30 bucks if memory serves. It's a little complicated, all right? It's gonna take you a little bit of time, but hop on the YouTubes, find a very detailed breakdown of what everything means, okay? I have I know enough about this application to run it for myself, but I don't know enough about it to teach a class on it. So that's why I'm not teaching it to you guys, right? I'm not an expert when it comes to that. I know enough to say, oh, this is my sight height, center of board, center of my optic. This is my general expected muzzle velocity. I know how to tweak my muzzle velocity to true. I know some of those basic things that I'll share with you, but I'm not an expert. So go find somebody who really knows how to break down how to use the Applied Ballistics app. The other thing I have here is a whiz wheel, and I randomly kind of stumbled upon this when I was in sniper school. So I have some 77 grain Sierra Match King on this. I think this is just a cool thing to know how to use because you can fit this in like the admin pouch on your chest rig or something, and it works in the rain, it's, you know, doesn't take batteries, just kind of a cool thing to have lying around, especially for this rifle. So this is what's called a whiz wheel, and you can have particular, you know, loads, but it's basically a ballistic solver that doesn't run off of batteries, which is pretty cool. All right, the next thing that I think is gonna be really important is bags, some sort of sand sock, at the very minimum a sand sock. This is the sand sock that I went through sniper school with. It's not that great, it's old socks and like rice, I think that's in there. This is one that I made more recently. This is a hygiene bag that I had lying around, so like for your toiletries and stuff. And I was able to tie it together and basically put airsoft BBs in there. Now, this thing is really freaking heavy, but for what I'm using it for, it works for the time being, and I didn't feel like spending 70 bucks on that right now. Now, the actual bags are great. There's tons of companies out there that make real bags that are lightweight that work better than this. So if you have the money, definitely spend the money. It's worth it. But if you don't have the money, just saying, there's ways you can improvise, go around your house and find something that will hold BBs. It could be as easy as an old pair of socks, right? That will do the job for the time being, and it will also make you appreciate the better gear when you get it. You're gonna notice a trend of that through this section, is some sort of rangefinder. And I get it, these can be expensive. This is SIG's budget model. This is their Buckmaster or whatever the heck it's called. This is honestly pretty new for me, so I'll have to play with this. The reviews said it was really good, but again, that's just an untested theory for me, right? So I have to go out to the range, play with this, see how well it gathers range and all of that. Now, this one is kind of cool in general. It gives you like groups. So you can program, you know, hey, I'm shooting a 5.56 or whatever, and it has like group 1, group 2, group 3. That will give you roughly what your, you know, adjustment in MOA should be. You know, oh, that's 1.25 at this distance if your round is in that group. Well, that's kind of a cool feature. Again, untested theory until I can go play with it. Does it do what it says it does so far? Yes. How reliable, how consistent? Do I have any problems? I don't know. I have to take it to the range more. So rangefinder, why this is useful, right? It's really useful because you get to know the actual range you're shooting at, right? A lot of the ranges you go to, you might be on the right side of the range shooting at a target that's on the left side of the range, and it says it's 300 meters, but you laze it and you find it's actually 320 meters away because you're scooted off to the right. Now you know you're collecting the data exactly for 320 meters. When you go to true your rifle, that's gonna matter, right? That extra 20 meters can make a difference. Especially if you're shooting out to like 500 or whatever. So that's where this thing I think is really crucial and important. And you, like I said, you get into one of these for about 200 bucks. That's not ridiculous. Okay, the next thing is gonna be some sort of spotting scope. Now, full transparency, this is one that I just got randomly given that I had lying around. I didn't think it was gonna work because it's probably honestly like a $40 spotting scope. But when I got to the range, I was able to hook my phone up to it and I can spot trace. I can generally see what's going on for the ranges that I'm shooting to. So it works for my, you know, purposes now. Will I upgrade eventually? Yeah. The problem with spotting scopes is shooting is kind of a two-man sport, right? You need a spotter and you need a shooter, and a lot of times spotting is the more difficult job. Giving actual corrections and all that is always more difficult than just telling someone, you know, than pulling the trigger at 0.2 mils. This one came with a little hookup right here that you can put your phone to, and that was actually really useful because you can shoot, go back and watch, you know, if you do a 5-round string, you can go back and watch and actually kind of see what the spotter would see and collect information that way. So that's one way I think if you're just by yourself going to the range, having something that you can hook your phone up to and record what you're doing, I think is really, really useful, okay? So guys, that's really all as far as kit. Now you obviously can buy a Kestrel. They're pretty, you know, pricey. Kestrels, they now have the Kestrels that have the ballistic solver in them and will give you wind data and can do a whole bunch of really cool stuff. So if you got the money, would definitely suggest buying a Kestrel. But again, it just depends on how much you're actually into this. For me, right now, I can't justify the purchase. It's like a $500, $600 purchase. And I'm just not into this enough right now to go purchase that Kestrel. I think it's more important to be able to just look downrange and identify what's going on down there as far as wind and all that. The last one is going to be what you guys are sitting on top of right now, and that is a tripod, okay? Now, you can spend a lot of money. I've shot off nice tripods. You can spend money on a tripod, and I would totally recommend it. There are a lot of really nice, sturdy, solid tripods out there. That being said, I went through sniper school with a Bushnell tripod. Is it harder to shoot off of? Absolutely. Is it going to do as well as those super heavy duty, like good carbon fiber, no, it's not. When you finally decide, you know what, I really do like shooting precision and I want to get into matches and I want to shoot this a ton, you will appreciate the nicer gear that much more because you used the crappy gear. You used the tripod that's not as stable. So this doesn't mean, hey, go get like a $10 tripod and start shooting off of that. No, get a decent camera tripod. That can get you started in shooting off of that out to distance. Or if you have the money, spend the money, get the nice tripod. It doesn't, it's just kind of budget options. Part 2, data collection. Whew, this is a gold mine. This is a huge topic, and obviously it's kind of the meat and potatoes. Let's start with the purpose, the overall purpose that I see of collecting data, why I'm trying to do it, or when I go out to collect data, why I'm doing it. And again, this is gonna be more specific to the SPR. I'll talk a little bit about the PRS stuff because I think it's important. So we're trying to see how much of the variable is this versus me, right? If I go out with a rifle that I don't know if it's shooting MOA or even capable of shooting MOA and I'm missing everywhere, that could be on me or it could be actually on the rifle. I could be doing stuff correctly and it's just outside the capability of the rifle. So that's why we wanna know what the rifle is actually capable of. We wanna check all the equipment and make sure it's good to go. And that's kind of what data collection is meant to be. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for me, the shooter, to utilize this platform. So like, honestly, if you wanted to lock your gun into a bench vise and see, hey, is it mechanically capable of shooting MOA with this ammunition? You could do that. I don't think it's necessarily necessary, but you could. The first thing that I focus on, or that I'm focusing on, is zeroing. And the reason for that is there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, my gun is sub MOA, or my gun is MOA, or it's 1.5 MOA, and that is a theory to them. What I mean by that is, not that it's impossible for a rifle to do that, but does your rifle actually do that when you're behind it? Can you actually get it to do that? It's a theory until you can go out and do it, okay? So that's where I like to test this. I had some 77 grain ammunition that I purchased. It was the AAC projectiles, the OTMs. Did not like my barrel, didn't shoot well. I don't know if it was just bad batch of ammo or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of variables there. So I'm still kind of on the hunt for that match grade ammunition that's gonna work well for this setup, right? What's my process for zeroing? Well, the first thing is make it easier on yourself. Don't be weird and like try and aim at things that are hard to hit. Find something to aim at that's comfortable for you to look at, that you feel like, man, I can be really consistent with this and I'm not like, where is it, am I there? Make it easy on yourself. I find that lots of times squares, just little squares, and I can aim at the bottom right corner or bottom left corner and turn my illumination on my reticle so it's white, white background, red crosshair with a black square that I'm aiming at. That really helps me center it up. Another thing is going to be parallax, using your parallax adjustment, right? Making sure that you have a good adjusted parallax for shooting at 100 meters. That doesn't just mean the hash mark that says 100 meters. What I usually do is get the rifle supported, set up, I adjust my parallax kind of back and forth, and I bob my head back and forth to see the least amount of movement in the reticle. It's just another factor to eliminate error when you're doing this. Cant of the rifle, making sure your rifle isn't canted left or right. And making sure you didn't by accidentally like change data or something, you didn't screw that up. Really, really important. So once you start shooting these groups, you want to be nice and comfortable. 5-round groups is pretty good. If you want to do 10-round groups, you can. I generally do 5-round groups. You shoot your 5-round group. You are honest with yourself. Hey, did I pull that one? Did anything feel wrong on that? Did I mess that up? And then you get your zero, right? So up, left, right, you move that group to wherever your zero is. So if I'm aiming here and I hit down here, I'm gonna adjust this group up and to the, for you guys, this would be, oh my God, I just opened up a whole world of, to the left, right? That's the left, okay? Dyslexia doesn't like that. So you wanna adjust and get your zero, right? Once that's done, you're gonna do something that's called slipping your rings, okay? Every scope is a little bit different, but essentially what this is let's say I had to go up, 0.9. So now my dial is 0.9, but that's my zero. So I'm gonna undo these rings with these Allen keys and then adjust them and put it back to 0 so that I'm good to go. If you don't know how to slip your rings on your Optic and you don't know how your 0 stop works, look it up. That's another thing on this Optic I don't really like is their 0 stop's a little wonky, but whatever. Firming that 0 multiple times at 100 meters. It's good practice just to make sure, can I consistently get this group, or was that group just lucky and I actually have some issues with my shooting I need to shake out? And this is really where the training starts to begin. Being able to collect data, there's training value in that, right? You're gonna have some groups that you shoot that are not good. You're gonna have some groups where you're like, yep, felt really good about that. So that's a good place to start setting up your eye relief, making sure you're consistent. How much do I want to focus on the reticle versus the square? What works for me? What gets me better groups? Do I want to have my thumb over, my thumb around? All of that stuff is where you can start to feel out, hey, where does this feel good? Just looking at variables, right? If I take the suppressor off, a lot of people in the precision world are going to go, oh my God, don't take it off. But you might have a rifle where you're going to take it off every once in a while, right? If you shoot that 62 grain general purpose ammunition, what shift is there? Cold bore data, right? When you get there, setting up and seeing, is there a shift when my rifle is cold and cooled down versus when it gets hot? Let's get into data collection, just general dope, right? Data on previous engagements, as the cool guys say. So how do we do this? What in the world is it? Now, there's a couple different ways you can do it. The kind of easy way, in my opinion, that for beginners is just the most simple. If you have somebody who can spot, or whatever the case may be, you're just going to confirm at whatever distances you have. So if you have to travel to a range, that's fine. But what you want is what's the most ideal would be like every 50 meters there's a target, right? So I can have 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and I can just confirm out to those distances and give myself data on my rifle for every distance. So what that would look like if I got there, let's say we have a range that just has a bunch of steel scattered out there. I'm gonna need my laser rangefinder, right? And I'm gonna laser range find a target and go, okay, that one's 110 meters. Based on what my ammunition told me, right? I might have a box of ammo that says, oh, this ammo is gonna do 3,000 feet per second out of a 16-inch barrel. So I might go, okay, my barrel's a little shorter, so I'm gonna lose a little bit of muzzle velocity. Let's put 2,900 in there as my muzzle velocity, and let's see how that does. So I put that in there with my projectile weight, as close as I can get it to match because I watched a YouTube video on how to use it. And then I look at it and it says, all right, for 110 meters, that should be, 0.6. Okay, cool, let's do it. 0.6 on the gun. I make sure I have someone either on the spotting scope, I'm recording the target. It would be best if that target was cleanly painted so I can have it, or if it's a paper target, I can see my hits. Take a shot, I call my shot. Was that good? Did that feel great? Did I pull anything? Did I do anything weird? Again, checking my parallax, checking my cant, making sure that I have what I want on the rifle, dialed to the rifle, all that stuff. Do I feel good about the shot? Okay, I get a hit, it's a little bit low. I adjust, I say, okay, that one's a little low, let me send another one. Okay, same result, a little bit low. Let me go ahead and bring that up. I can use my mil reticle and say, all right, that's 0.1 low, let me bring it up, just 0.1. I shoot, I confirm, yep, sounds good. 0.7 is actually for 110 meters, it's 0.7. That's my dial, I feel good about it. I write that down. 110 meters equals 0.7 mils, okay? Then I go to the next target. I laze that next target, cool, it's 150 meters. My ballistic calculator is telling me, hey, you should be at, 0.9 for this. I shoot it, ends up, I'm at I'm at 1 mil for it, or whatever the case may be. I'm just gonna continue to collect any data that I can from actually shooting. Confirm that data, make sure, yep, I feel good about that, that's what I need. All while being disciplined enough to make sure that I'm eliminating those variables. Hey, am I using good parallax? Is my rifle canted? Was my position off? Did I press the trigger in the bad way? What did I do? Was there anything in there, right? And I wanna gather that data out as far as I possibly can. If I can get to 700 meters, obviously wind is gonna start playing variables, but that's me collecting that data. Now, when I get done with that and I have this long chart, okay? You can play with your muzzle velocity and what's kind of called truing, if you will. What actually truing your rifle is, and I had forgotten this, I had to hit up my buddy Workman and kind of jog my memory on it. But actually truing your rifle is finding that lead edge of transonic. Now, supersonic is anything where the round is traveling faster than 1100-ish feet per second. Transonic is where it starts to transition and drop down into that subsonic range, which I want to say is, again, slower than 1100, but I want to say it happens at about 1080. Or maybe that's the lead edge of transonic. I don't know. But anyway, those are the three phases of flight that you have: supersonic, transonic, and subsonic. And basically what happens is that's where your muzzle velocity is really honest, I think is the best way to put it. And so you're trying to find what it does. Now, I only have a 500 meter range, and I think that the 556 77 grain is somewhere around the 600s that it starts to go transonic. Again, don't quote me on it, I'm not exact. All stuff I'm still training with. So if I can find that, I can shoot that transonic distance, and whatever my hold is, I can go make that be true on my ballistic calculator. So let's say it's 650 meters, right? And that's where transonic is supposed to be happening based on my round, my barrel length. I shoot at it, my ballistic calculator says I should be at, 5 mils. And I end up actually being at, 5.2. I want to go in there and adjust my muzzle velocity until it is 5.2. I can go, okay, go up a little bit with my muzzle velocity. Sweet, now it reads 5.2. I'm good to go. That's roughly where my rifle is at, okay? That's the idea behind truing. What you can do with this is then if you have that data, you can see, hey, does this make it match all the way down? So I could start at 500 meters and go, hey, I'm getting hits at 4 mils at 500 meters, but my ballistic calculator is telling me it should be 3.9. So I can go in and adjust my muzzle velocity until it makes what's actually happening true. So it's kind of bending the curve of that ballistic calculator to match your muzzle velocity. Now, by far the best way to do this is just chronograph your rifle, right? Go out there, get an actual standard deviation, get a muzzle velocity, use that chronograph to see what your rifle is doing and gives you that average muzzle velocity. Plug that into the ballistic calculator and it'll be a lot more accurate, right? That's gonna be the best way to do it. So that's just kind of what you're looking to do with gathering data, guys, is seeing what your rifle's doing, seeing what your actual dials are for different distances so that you have data on your rifle. So learning how to actually call wind, I think one of the best ways to do it, yes, you can learn short wind formula, you can know your weapon's ballistic, or know your round's ballistic coefficient. All that stuff is really, really good, but the ballistic calculator will actually help a lot with understanding how to call wind, and you'll start to just get used to it, right? If I can identify what a 4-mile-an-hour wind looks like downrange, then I can kind of know, at these different distances, oh, that's what I'm gonna need to hold for this, right? So I think that's actually best done behind a spotting scope. If you get the opportunity to sit behind a spotting scope, start calling wind, you get familiar with your rifle, you know what its ballistic coefficient is. There's a bunch of different ways to learn how to call wind. The best thing I think to do is just do it. Get to the range, start shooting, going, oh, that's about a 4-mile-an-hour wind. Look at your ballistic calculator and go, okay, 4-mile-an-hour wind at 200 meters. Oh, that's a 0.6 hold. Okay, that makes sense. That's low. So I'm gonna come up 0.2. Right edge. I do see a left to right out there, so I'm going to hold left edge. Impact. Impact. Left edge, that was me. Impact. Impact. That's about what I would have guessed it to be. Okay, what's a 10-mile-an-hour wind? That is one of the best ways to just kind of learn it. Now, there's math behind it. If you want to, in my experience, the type of people that I saw, there were the people that just kind of like could look at wind and kind of make a good estimate of what it should be based on like a baseline. And then there were the dudes that actually needed the mathematical equation. So kind of identify, which one you are. I'd imagine when you get out to shooting to ridiculously far distances, it's pretty hard to just be like, well, I think that's about like a point, whatever wind, let me plug it in. It's probably a lot of just send it, see what the wind does to it and go, okay, do this adjustment. The last thing I want to say about data collection, guys, is this is a very brief kind of thing that comes to data collection. There's so much information out there about how to collect more accurate data, how to get that information, all that stuff. So just because I gave you like an abridged version of it, don't think that you can't get really deep or that I need to get more deep into it, right? So don't just breeze over that and be like, I understand that, good to go. Like there's tons of stuff that will affect those, the trajectory and everything happening, the ballistics, external, internal, all that stuff. So don't just breeze over that. That's a really important part of it. Part 3, skills. So once you have your rifle, the data, you've built a good relationship with this thing. You understand what it's gonna do with ammunition. What things can we actually work on with this particular rifle that are gonna be very valuable for us? And there's a lot of them, and a lot of them that people don't think about. I think when we get into precision shooting, lots of times people just think laying down prone, shooting a tiny thing at like the maximum capability of this rifle. And really it's cool, it's good to know how to do that, but that's really not practical. What can I be doing with this rifle that's practical, okay? So The first thing is gonna be like holds versus dials, right? Picking which one you kind of like better and putting it on the clock, right? Okay, there's a target at 300, so I have a target at 200 and a target at 300. Is it quicker for me to hold or dial? Well, I'm gonna be shooting targets from 100 meters to 400 meters. I might choose like 250 meters as my dial, and then anything that's below 250 meters, I just know like, okay, I'm gonna have to hold low, and anything that's out past that 250 meters, I just hold a little bit high, right? And that can make rapid target engagements really fast. Or you just get used to doing straight up holds. Straight up holds kind of weird me out. I have a hard time focusing and seeing where I need to be. I don't know if that's because I need to practice it more, but that has always been more difficult for me. So I've always been more of a just like, once I get to that distance where I'm shooting out further, I like dialing. I like just being like, all right, 400 meters, click, okay, 400 meters, point, whatever. So just play with that stuff. Put it on the clock. See how much time it takes you to, enter into a position, click that dial and shoot versus enter in that position and shoot a holdover. And which one's more likely to get you that first round impact? Stuff like that is really easy, low hanging fruit, okay? And that falls into rapid target engagements, okay? That is one of the most, in sniper school, that was like, we would do alternate positions and rapid target engagements. So the ability to be in this position, get on a target, shoot that target, dump your dope, get to the next target from a different position and shoot that, all right? Rapid target engagements are awesome. There's tons of ways you can do this. A ladder is a great tool. Bruiser Industries talks about this a lot. I've seen a lot of people use them. You can just bring a ladder to the range and use that as a barricade for shooting at different positions in different ways, right? You don't have to build some fancy barricade. A ladder will work, okay? Which, again, kind of ties into the next thing that I'm talking about, which is just alternate positions, right? Firing, from alternate positions, keeping track of, am I able to get a first round hit? And one thing that I've noticed that I think from the time that I spent training, and I've heard Bruiser Industries talk about this, which is a really good resource for this, is it's not so much can I get to a position and then take multiple shots, it's how long does it take me to get into that position and take that one shot that's a hit, okay? Am I good at getting into position, into a stable position, and being able to take that first round shot and hit? Versus can I get into a position kind of sloppy, shoot one, adjust, shoot another one, adjust, and then get hits and then just sit there and repeat those hits over and over again. That's not really the game. It's kind of a waste of ammo. So one thing that I like to do a lot of times is pick a position, start with the gun back, buzzer goes off, I step in, settle down, and if I feel my position's compromised, I'll just say, nope, bad position, rifle back on safe, step off. The same thing again, land in a good position, good to go, all right, boom, fire, hit, awesome, that one was good, what was that time, da-da-da, right? That's kind of how I'm training, is I would much rather work on getting into that position the right way, like right off the bat, versus get into it kind of sloppy, take a shot, finally get into the right position, and then be like, look at me, I can take multiple shots and hit. That's really not the purpose of alternates, right? It's getting into the position in a clean and effective manner so that you're stable. Calling your shots, right? From alternates, if you do take a miss, being able to follow up immediately with the fix to that, whether it was your mistake or whether you called wind just a little off and you're able to see that splash and adjust and take that follow-up shot, or you just pulled the shot and you need to take a follow-up shot before that one even hits the target. That's another skill, follow-up shots. So with all those being said, that's a ton, that's the majority of work you can do with this SPR, off a tripod, off barricades, off whatever it is, shooting different size targets at different distances, being able to follow up multiple shots quickly, all of that stuff is all things that you can practice, right? And the last thing I want to share with you is like an unknown distance range, right? This is a great test, is go to a range where you don't know the distance, put yourself on a timer, hit the timer, drop down, grab your range, your rangefinder. If you want to do the mill relation, if you want to practice, milling targets and actually manually calling it out, you can do that. Doing math, put yourself under a little bit of stress, measure that target, put yourself in a position, and take that shot for that target. If it's a miss, try and get the follow-up hit. How long? How many shots did it take me to get the hit? All of that stuff. The difficult thing with precision shooting is I don't have a good idea of what good actually looks like, right? I'm not shooting a lot of PRS matches. So this is kind of a huge thing when it comes to training, is understanding you might think you're good, but if you don't have a reference for what good is, how do you know? Even with me going out and shooting this stuff and keeping track of my time or doing this, relative to what? I'm not even putting it, I'm just competing against myself, right? Which is not very good competition. The other thing that I would say is on my list of stuff to do is matches. I want to go shoot some gas gun matches. Once I have good data and I feel like I've worked on some of this stuff, I want to jump into a match and get my ass handed to me, because I want to see what actual good looks like. I want to have a metric until I put myself up against somebody else who can do it faster, who can do it more accurately, and who can do it more consistently, right? So all that stuff, if you really are into training, you're really into going out there and finding what that idea of good looks like. It's super, super important. Maybe I don't have all the time in the world to do this, but what I don't want to do is just go to my range, shoot a 500-meter target every once in a while and be like, I'm good at this. I know how to do precision. My goal, what I'm going to be focusing on doing, is making it to a match every once in a while and finding people that are faster, more accurate, and more consistent than me, and then figuring out how it is that they achieve that. The reason I like competition is because it will start to make you obsessed with being really good at this thing, more so than just a random drill or shooting, going to the range and shooting every once in a while. It'll be the type of thing that gets you dry firing with your long gun or doing that. And I just know that once I go through this period of data collection, doing all this, once I have this gun set up and I'm good to go, I'm gonna order some of that match grade ammunition and it's going to be spent shooting a match, right? After a certain period of time, doing those alternate positions and all that stuff, if I know what the gun's gonna do, I can do that in dry fire. Matches are gonna be where I want to spend my time testing. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps you guys kind of see some of the areas where you could get out and start training and start practicing. Again, I just wanna make it so clear, I am not an expert in this area. I am sharing with you the stuff that I kind of have known. Some of it is theory passed on by people that I trust. Some of it is stuff that I've seen myself and I've trained. I hope I did a good job of making that clear. But at the end of the day, you guys need to get out and use this, because if it's just in your brain, if you've done it once or twice, or you do it every once in a while, it's still, somewhat maybe tested theory, but you don't know it to be true. So go out there, find out what you're capable of, find out what, good looks like. That's the goal of all of this stuff, is to help you guys find a path to getting better.